For Sprite Smash, you're going to click on Start New Project, name it Sprite Smash, for this app, you're going to be using the image that you had taken and cut out and made the transparent background for. If you don't have that done yet, I will help you with it on Tuesday. Just find any image for right now to use just to get it working. Same thing for the sound. If you don't have a sound, that's okay too. So we're going to have 7 components in this app. A canvas, that's where the sprite's going to jump around. An image sprite, which is just the picture, the image of what's moving around. Sprites have to be on a canvas, just so you know. Clock is going to be used as a timer. When the timer fires or goes off, like an alarm, that's when the sprite will move around the canvas. A label is going to be used to display the score, and a button to reset the game, and the sound file will play using the sound component. So let's set up our basic screen. First, let's go over to the right and change the title to Sprite Smash. And then we will drag over our components. The canvas is in the drawing and animation. And we'll grab a image sprite right away and plop it right on there. We will need a label for the score. We will need a button. And then 2 non-visible components. We need a sound, and we need the clock, which is in sensors. We haven't used that one before. It's the 3rd one down. So the sound and the clock ended up down here on the bottom. You can see in my direction sheet, which is really thorough if you actually read it and look at it, that this tells you exactly which drawer you can find each of these components in, what the purpose of it is, and then the initial properties for it. So let's rename some of these so we can start designing our screen. Canvas you can leave as Canvas 1. We do want it to be fairly large, so we're going to set the height to 300 pixels. And the width to fill parent. Fill parent means fill in as much space as you possibly can without going over other components. The label, we're going to rename label score. And we're going to set the text to score equals 0. Unlike in our last app where we had 2 labels, one held the title that said score or tally, and the other one held the number, we're going to do them together in one, and it's going to teach you about using the join. You'll see that in a little bit. The button is going to be for resetting, so we are going to rename that button reset, and the text for that button is reset. The image sprite, I'm going to rename mine to match what mine is. Mine's going to be a hamster, so I'm going to call it image sprite hamster. To set the sprite image source, we're going to go over to where it says picture. You can also upload all your media here as well. I'm just going to do this in one easy step. I'm going to say picture, upload file. Then you need to know where you put that file. So if you don't know where it is, you might want to take some time to find it before you get to this point. I know mine is on my desktop right now. Yours is probably in your downloads or in your picture files. Here's my hamster. He's a little big. Let's make him a little bit smaller. While he's adorable, you don't need him to be that large. Let's try 75 pixels. That might be a little tiny. Oh, no, that's pretty nice. You could even go smaller, down to 50 is appropriate for this game as well. You can play around with it and see what works best for the image that you've chosen. The sound I'm going to rename sound chewing, and I found a really kind of gross sound like someone's eating something, but it works. Remember, you might need to change your names on your sound files. If they have any weird punctuation marks in them, they might not work. Test it. If it doesn't work, you can always change the name and upload it again later. It's not a big deal. We do not need to rename the clock either, as it's the one that we will have in here. So, the most basic thing that this program should do is when something happens, which is we're going to use the clock to do this, when the clock fires, make it move. So I want my hamster to move. So I'm going to go to my blocks view, and we're going to create a procedure. To create a procedure, you click on this purple box right here. Click and drag, and you can rename it. I'm going to call it Move Sprite Hamster. So I'm going to first go down to my Sprite Hamster, and I am going to set his visibility to false. And then I'm going to move him around randomly. To do this, I need to get random X and Y locations, just like you would if you were plotting a graph. And it just so happens we have these X and Y that we can use. So here's X, and I'm going to duplicate this. Some of you got that pretty easily. Some of you might need to watch this to get it again this time. But I'm going to say, I'm going to make the first one, and then I'll go back to do the next one. The random integer is just a random whole number. It's right down here. I'm going to put it in here. And we're going to use some interesting properties for this. We're actually not going to use any set numbers. We're going to use the width of the canvas. So click on the canvas and scroll down. You want canvas width, this one right here. It's the light green. To the sprite width, because you don't want it to go off the screen at all. So I'm going to click on Sprite, and here's his width. Now, instead of going and finding all those blocks again, I'm going to duplicate this and change the values a little bit. I'm going to change this X to Y, and I'm going to change the hamster sprite width to height. X value is across, so horizontally that's the width. Y is up and down on your screen vertically, which is your height. I also now need to make that hamster visible once he's done moving. So I'm going to duplicate this and set the visibility to true. So, right now I'm not calling this at any point. All I'm doing is I've made a procedure. I need to be able to move it. To do that, I'm going to use the clock. If we go back to the clock, it's at 500. We're going to leave it at this. Oh, where is it? Oh, it's at 1,000. I set it at 500. 500 for the interval. We want every half second right now for it to fire and move. You can play around with that to make the game harder or easier. So I want to say clock, timer. When that timer goes off, then I want to call this move sprite. Stop and test your app and make sure that your sprite moves. Pause this video and test it right now. Welcome back. Let's set the score. Whenever you touch the hamster or whatever your sprite image is, you should be getting 1 point. The whole point of this game is to gain points. So we're going to say when that sprite is touched, so if you go down, it's the bottom one. Not touch up, not touch down, just touched. When it is touched, I can see we need to have a variable, so we are going to click on variable and initialize. And I'm just going to name it score, and I'm going to set it to 0. When that hamster is touched, I'm going to add 1 to that score. So just like the last time, I'm going to say set score to, and I'm going to get whatever that current value is. I'm going to add 1 to it. It's not enough, remember, to change a variable. You have to actually show it on the label. If you don't show it on the label, no one will know what the score is except the program. So we're going to say set label score text. And here I was talking about this when we were setting up the screen. We're going to be using this join to join text with a number value. So click on text, and the second one down is join. Instead of having 2 labels, we're just going to have 1, and we're going to join the word score with a semicolon. Make sure you leave a space after that for the number, and then get global score. And then we will play the chewing sound or whatever sound it is that you choose. Stop and test your app. And then, when you are done, choose some of these features to improve your game. So you can increase the speed of the sprite as the game goes on. Hint, you'll need another clock. You could count the number of misses. Hint, you would need to use when canvas touched and another label. Add another sprite as a diversion and take away points if the wrong sprite is tapped. That's my favorite one to do, is to have more than one sprite jumping around. All you have to do is recreate or add a new sprite and then just make a procedure to move those as well, or limit the length of the game. So, good luck. I'm hoping you can at least get through setting up the initial game today.